One day after the brutal murder of the autopsy report leaked by Rob Reiner, Jonathan Lucas departed public life that stunned. Cold numbers. Clinical descriptions revealed violence beyond imagination. Dozens of vicious knife strikes, as if the attacker wished to express long-simmering wrath. Death quickly, but not painfully. Brief. At night, Nick Reiner arrested amid a police cordon, and the family's troubled history promptly retrieved. The media instantly called him, as if exclaiming hasty indictment, as if all parts of the puzzle fit, since forensic professionals began to evaluate deeper body traces. A scary question arose. Was this a sudden outburst of personal hatred? Since there were mismatched details, there were holes at the crime scene and evidence that this tragedy may not be as simple as people quick guessed. If Nick was a piece moved into was standing in the light, the shadows controlling the bloody play. What power is big enough, cruel enough to turn two powerful individuals into home-based victims? Hollywood has seen many tragedies. If someone died, plunges the full film industry to a halt. The moment Rob Reiner and his wife of over 30 years, Michelle Singing Renner, discovered they died in Brentwood home, originally an intellectual metaphor-friendly, intimate family. In the afternoon of December 14th, a medical emergency call rang like any other in that posh neighborhood. But authorities entered the familiar residence. They encountered not a life to save, but a chilling, thick quiet, once a joyful home. Long film family discussions suddenly felt foreign, like life had changed, silently exhausted long ago. Police blocked the area immediately. Full estate and mansion hallways. Each corridor and room was examined, searched the living room to the kitchen, garden to guest home. Rob Reiner was found sleeping on the living room floor, severe knife cuts mostly around neck and body. No big struggle was evident yet. The scene gave goosebumps that researchers' spines snapped, quick, leaving no time to call for aid. In the kitchen where Michelle often cooked, she made warm family meals, discovered with identical deadly cuts, a regular kitchen knife. On the brief streaks on kitchen counter, fall of knife showed struggle blotches, as if she tried fight her last moments. No one knew what she thought or how much suffering she survived that moment. The scene always caused despair and desperation, struggle to survive, but ultimately silently finishing. That knife, the most common household item, had become an unexpected weapon catastrophe in the family. Detectives were forced to question what happened. About a sudden wrath in that house related to long-standing difficulties. Family once tried to protect each other from darkness, anguish, addiction. Everything was chaotic, but had an air of a sudden disaster. Even experienced investigators could hardly hide their discomfort. Someone exclaimed, "This scene, there's no frantic violence, yet it feels unmanageable." The explosion, like rage, had softly infiltrated tight doors that left the door permanently wounds back. Confusion grew. A murder weapon was one of the most familiar home goods. The regular kitchen knife Michelle uses made nice family meals. If this was a rant, why was the weapon so accessible, lying on the counter waiting? Was a scary coincidence? Was the evidence of simmering wrath one moment to erupt? Body positions made even seasoned investigators pause. In the kitchen, Michelle with the knife nearby, like dumped by the attacker. Rob appeared near, as if he had raced to interfere, but failed. There were no huge chaos, no furnishings badly disturbed, just lethal wounds, fast and cruel. That moment sparked human terror. One may lose control of rage unexpectedly. In no time to call anyone name. No one called for help. Why? Perhaps Michelle panicked too much that seeing her spouse assault first, or slumped too rapidly to respond. Maybe Rob tried to interfere to protect his wife, but all happened too fast, leaving no time for an aid request. Nothing was clear. Answer. Only one harsh fact: time had in that residence. Nobody was to retain anything except their accidental daughter Romy saw its discovery bodies. Tensions rose when December 16, 2025, the Rob Reiner autopsy and his wife freed. All secrets were been revealed. Immediately after, when cops arrived, two victims' bodies were transferred to LA County Coroner's Office that night. An autopsy was done. December 15, 2025, an experienced forensic team directly supervised experts Jonathan, Chief Medical Examiner Lucas, LA County Executive Coroner Service. Dr. Lucas did not speak for long. Before starting, he desired complete silence room as a final tribute. I've done many complicated, he whispered, autopsies colleagues. Speaking softly, I've never encountered a case like this emotional burden. The initial results arrived hours later, confirming both deaths causes acute blood loss from many sources, penetration injuries from a sharp instrument, especially deep cuts cutting major arteries and vital center organs. For Rob Reiner, Dr. Lucas made 3 deadly incisions throughout the neck, chest, and upper body. Clean wounds, forceful and precise, displaying strength, power, and a blade. This sequence, too fast, tidy, shows everything within moments, offering the victims no time to adjust. There were no major defensive wounds, several tiny scratches on his hand suggesting he was attacked unexpectedly or while running tossifigured his wife. Dr. Lucas stated no health issues plagued Reiner at 78 and severe illness or cardiovascular disease issues causing his death. At Ashort December 16th news conference, firstador Jonathan Lucas may reveal his emotions to the press. Over 20 years in this field, never seen a celebrity case like this, terrible and heartbreaking. Not this, simply familial loss, but loss to American film. He added, the wounds on Mr. Reiner are short. His outburst was violent. Time to resist much, as every thing happened in minutes. This legend shocks me. Rob Reiner may die this way. For Michelle Singer Reiner, autopsy more heartbreaking. She had 2 deadly cuts as well. Cuts to the neck and torso, main blood vessels and trachea. More defensive wounds were shown on her arms, indicating resistance or protect her last moments. Dr. Lucas stated that shut down the press. Michelle likely attacked first. Body and blood position splatter suggests she tried to move to reach her husband or get aid. That is motherly instinct, wifely instinct. Truly heartbreaking. Death time for both was decided to be early morning December 14. Full forensic report, including toxicology and detailed histological analysis, should be finished in weeks. However, preliminary findings were sufficient for LA County DA's office to officially Nick Reiner faces 2 charges of first-degree murder. Hours later, initial autopsy results went to investigators. Nick Reiner's name appeared. #1 suspect. According to investigation records, Nick was suspicious first, departing Brentwood mere hours after death's anticipated time. Secondary road security cameras caught him driving recklessly. He kept changing direction, as if knew not what he was fleeing his destination. Just one investigator described, he drove less like an escape plan, but panicked and disoriented. Nick stuck to minor roads. Abandoned streets with street light scarcity and darkness persisted, turning off his phone for many hours, then suddenly switched it back on. That quick call to an old buddy, a deadly mistake. The signal was traced, and cops began to pinpoint where Nick might be hiding. Per LAPD sources, witnesses reported Nick's 9:15 arrest December 14, near the USC in South LA, walking with a weary, disoriented look. Were arrested without resistance, smooth, no chasing or weapon confrontation. Why Nick rapidly became the suspicious was not just location or timing coincidence, but arose from familial strife conflicts. Psychological reports reveal Nick matured, feeling inferior to his parents, exposed with the stigma of being the troubled child in success family. He once received therapy years earlier, spoke a sentence that moved. Read it later and shuddered. I sometimes want them forced to listen to me once. No matter what the expense. Within the tragedy, that sentences became scary prophecies. Family members unwittingly help Hedo suspecting Nick. Sister and brother accounts indicated Nick frequently appeared suddenly home, arriving and departing, living independently but reliant in family. That he stayed at the guest house de rear, a private and faraway place. Nick's lineal position own home. Family knew his extreme mental fragility, but that worry grew into tiredness and powerlessness. Especially, investigators were aware of a public debate occurred hours before the catastrophe. Nick behaved in a thronged, strangely tense eyes, speech confused, thick atmosphere. Rob chastised his son in front of friends. It wasn't just affably correction, yet the end humiliation and long-term injury Nick had accumulated for years when parents left early, leaving Nick in used fury. Many later wondered when catastrophic damage occurred. Nick's addiction history and sadness kept him in the spotlight. Suspicion. Previous rehab details helped script film were now seen in a dimmer light. He was remembered by close family friends. Mother fears potential relapse. The anxiety of not knowing Nick was thinking. They claimed the family tried everything. Love, toughness, compromise, have hope again. But that fight started a cycle that where love and resentment intertwined, making every choice seem incorrect in eyes of another that investigation-wise. Nick became the main suspect because was closest emotionally and physically scenario. Hypothetical observations location procedures made investigators can't ignore his name. A family tragedy. The closest physically and emotionally is generally first examined. His quick questions mental instability bolstered. A person unwinding. Public. He was no longer sunsick, but a symbol of a ticking time bomb that burst unexpected time. Judgment preceded truth, but the deeper the inquiry became increasingly complicated story became. Was Nick the perpetrator or just innocent? Terrible result of a loving family not enough to repair serious wounds. Even though police responded promptly identified it as a double murder arrested the main suspect in hours the case raised many suspicions points abandoning Hollywood and public uneasy about a bigger plot appears to involve politics and Trump for years dying. Rob Reiner nostude as a director telling stories via he stepped into the political storm in America. Facing Trump head-on sharply and relentlessly uncompromising tone for Reiner did not involve ordinary difference in opinion, but a moral conflict where assumed silence meant Hollywood may divide. The people may be tired, but Reiner did not retreat from 2016 campaign. Rob Reiner called Trump an existential threat to American democracy. This was not said in safe interviews, but wrote it on social media ringing. Alarmingly, Reiner leveraged his fame throughout life to attract notice, accepting criticism and abuse Hollywood progressive label. But he thought silence was real shameful. With Trump's victory, Reiner's tone evened out tension. He often cautioned about the risks of concentrated power press attacks and incitement words that incited hate. Reiner called Trump immoral and spiritual power to hold ultimate his statement made him a thorn. Trump fans eyes point 2017. Reiner co-founded and joined advisory board for Committee to Investigate Russia, nonprofit organization promoting awareness about 2016 Russian intervention U.S. election and Trump's shady relationships to Russia, accusing Trump of treason and promotion Trump repeatedly refuted. Russian hoax. After the January 6th riot at Capitol, Rob Reiner, nearly unrestrained, described as an indelible stain publicly urged Trump's detention legally accountable. His comments reeked of rage the weight of a witness enough. Reiner believed it was the moment verified all his fears warned of, and his wrath from that point was depressed. Reiner also stopped at words that participated in groups' political campaigns. Investigations he opposed Trump's impact that he accomplished this without bias. But for American soul, Reiner it was a fight between values he has always held a power he considered destructive. Every time he spoke, he knew he was entering a new wave of insults by Trump, and his followers responded violently. Mocking Reiner, called Trump derangement syndrome, drawn into bitter fights. Interestingly, Reiner never recanted words. He did not apologize or calm that spoke rudely. This stance gave the conflict the appearance of personal ideology battle without surrender. Reiner during Trump's second term continuing to warn. Trump was changing Make America a dictatorship targeting political foes in 2024 to 2025 interviews. He remarked, "We have a year before this nation becomes fully autocratic and nicknamed on individuals to speak up." Despite harsh criticism, Reiner condemned political violence, saying total terror. After the murder, Charlie Kirk in September 2025, no compromise from Reiner led Trump to constantly call him ill Trump derangement syndrome. Trump mocked those who criticized him relentlessly. Even after the December 14th disaster, Trump suggested on Truth Social Reiner died from fury. Because of this sickness, this led to a terrible conspiracy that Trump's factions wanted to abolish Rob Reiner. Nick acted as proxy. Immediately after Rob's death, Reiner and wife, a smoldering speculation spread in the shadows of public opinion. Was it just a family tragedy? Invisible hands behind it. A man who faced political challenges power directly and criticized important figures for years, Rob Reiner seemed more than a filmmaker to become a thorn in a world where power constantly wants self-preservation. Some thorns must be eliminated that a conspiracy theorist questions the pace everything. Nick Reiner was arrested nearly instantly, named the main suspect before the public reacted. All arrows pointed one way. Smooth and fast at it. Seemed suspicious situations. Emphasis one person often gets all the attention. Most effective way to suppress riskier questions. According to this theory, Nick was the suspect became the ideal container for ambiguity, with troubled family history, exploitable mental features. With this tale structure, the public stops investigating deeper. Complex politics is replaced. Family tragedy easier to handle digest. Theorists recall Rob Reiner was never quiet. He openly demanded probes into political power, utilizing his influence to warn of erosion. That voice is democracy for them. Constantly risked being forced to disappear or entirely discredited. Darkest death situation is most definitive solution. Nick's quick arrest. This hypothesis served not only justice, but locked the story-safe narrative. Once the motive was determined, suspect had name as a personal outburst. Every other questions automatically became too far. Those who inquire about politics context or Rob's formidable enemies deemed insane. Often mentioned in this theory, quick media stabilization of the messaged headline pattern repeats, same protagonist, story. Skeptics saw this as not a coincidence, but a story, sign-early frame. Fewer versions reduce danger. Further theories link this to thirst, like Jeffrey Epstein's deather list. Related witnesses claiming Renner knew too much about significant contacts and was silent secret forces perhaps linked to it didn't affect Trump or opponents. Stop when the public started questioning recipients. Without Rob Reiner, who benefits? Speaking out. Who benefits? Final image being family-related catastrophe over political sharpness. The reasoning of these messages theories. Power rarely acts alone. Every quiet costs. Naturally, there is no proof that prove this scenario, but the incomplete answer increases suspicion. When someone deeply divides unexpected death of politics and everything closed too rapidly, the void becomes excellent ground for speculation. Meanwhile, Hollywood mourned. Not only did Robert die, famous director, but closure of a hole. Storytelling era friends, co-workers, and global audiences mourn, shocked by the intricate details regarding his and Michelle's final. When tributes are mentioned, Reiner will be remembered with lengthy applause, but beyond the lights was a profound quiet. Truth finally prevails in Brentwood House. Still, the mood grew familiar. Hollywood stars paid their dues respects. They showed up as not stars but losers of a shared memory. Slow, trembling words were spoken, like each sentence had to travel through hand. Undetectable chest weight. Discussing Rob. They called him a compassionate storyteller, always believed that cinema could make people better. And the room fell into silence. People spoke of Rob Reiner, not with flashy praise, but with simple respect for a devoted human being, that a great director who never needed to show off an artist. Always standing behind the frame to let others shine. That in colleagues' memories. Reiner arrived early, worked tirelessly, and was stricter with himself than anyone. That quiet dedication created films that endured through time. Yet, after the formal speeches and applause, Hollywood felt not only grief but confusion. That Reiner's departure was not easily digestible. The rushed timelines, unexplained details, and the sense that everything ended too abruptly left unease within a community accustomed to stories with clear conclusions. The house that had once echoed with laughter, where friends visited, where projects were conceived, now became a symbol of an indescribable emptiness. Why was everything so silent? Why were the questions that followed more numerous than the answers? No one hurried to conclude, yet the unease was present in every whispered word backstage. Amid doubts and turmoil, Rob Reiner's legacy remains steadfast as a landmark. This is Spinal Tap. Stand By Me. When Harry Met Sally, The Princess Bride. A Few Good Men. Each work a slice of humanity where humor, pain, and hope coexisted. Colleagues remembered him as a master craftsman. Audiences remembered him as someone who taught them to believe in good. Even away from the lights, Reiner Chosito lived among family. Among the values she pursued all his life, he did not need noise to prove who he was. And ironically, his return to public memory came in a painfully tragic way. That final chapter carried ambiguity, hard to define, hard to close. Now, as time passes, Hollywood retains an unusual sorrow. Not only the grief of losing a legend, but also the longing to understand. Place a period on lingering questions. Each passing day, that silence grows more pronounced, like a scar in collective memory. Rob Reiner dedicated his life to telling layered, complex stories, And paradoxically, the final chapter Ophi's own life left a similar void in that silent waiting Hollywood. And fans can only embrace the legacy he left, his films, his values, and hope that Oneidi the truth will shine enough to close this pain. The fate of Rob Reiner and Michelle closed like a cold cut into Hollywood's heart, sudden, ruthless, and leaving too many unfillable gaps. A storyteller of compassion, a woman quietly standing behind the lights, ultimately departed in a tragedy that stunned the world. Rob's films remain, memories of Michelle remain, but the two living humans will never return. The most painful thing was not only the death, but the sense of incompletion. Unspoken words, unexpressed love, hopes left dangling. Amid memorial applause and formal obituaries, there remains a very human sorrow and the grief of a family once believed happy, ultimately ending in irreplaceable loss. Rob Reiner spent his life telling us stories of love, friendship, justice, and compassion. Michelle spent her life preserving those things in reality. And perhaps the truest way to honor them is not to let those values die with the tragedy, but to continue remembering them with kindness, with sincere mourning. If you too feel choked by the fate of Rob Reiner and Michelle, leave a comment to share your thoughts and farewell. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to follow, listen, and remember the stories behind the lights where humanity, pain, and memory always outlast fame.